Completely protected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and truth of conduct. So judgment of the world, supreme guide human beings to be taken. Figure of all of humanity. Figure of completely and fully awakened. The endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the healer from the shattered land. I prostrate and hope in the Lord. To the founder of the endowed transcendent destroyer, as one call me on the fire destroyer, the completely perfect and fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, so God was known of the world, the living God of human beings to be thanked, teacher of all human beings, to be completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the shadow decliner, I prostrate and cooperate in good refuge. To the founder of the endowed transcendent destroyer, the fire destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, so God of knower of the world, supreme God of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, the unity completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the decliner, I love great and all creatures in good refuge. When I supreme amongst humans, you are born as this earth. You pay out human strides, and say that I am world. To you, the one life of the I prostrate. With pure bodies, all supremely pure, wisdom of the light of all the mountain. Finding it blazes in the three worlds. We are of the best, Lord, to you I strength. With supreme signs, faith, and the smooth, how light of the three like you, but you also not, incomparably wise one. Study your heaven great compassion, the founder of heavenly understanding, the people of bearable qualities like God's ocean, to you who unbound to darkness, the purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the loss of bodies, the one found with the blind liberty. Those who are the brave and all from the vows of adoration, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to use the divine community and tingling virtue and strength. Homage to the supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Son, all free every development. The war where the reject, bowing bodies of many is already around passions in all aspects, with the prince. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions before learning the perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. An illusion dropped to the world. A dream of gradual lightning and cloud. Big conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sinking beings attain the rank of all schemes. Through the call of faults and disabilities from validation. Perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and envy. Page 15. I prostrate to the Oriental Museum. Thus did I hear at one time. The but one was dwelling on that the mountain in Austria, together with the refugee and great community for his suffrage. At that time, the but one was absorbed in the concentration on the boundaries of the also at that time, the body looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those fires of which also safety of the privilege. Then through the power of Buddha, the venerable Sharp said this to the body how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity by operation of wisdom? He said that, and the body said that to the venerable Sharaputra. Sharaputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage, who wishes to practice the activity of found perfection of wisdom, to look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding the 5 aggregates also sleep in their religion. Always negative emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than even. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Zarathustra likewise the phenomena of emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not officially, not fulfilled. Shall therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, after including no mind element, and no individual consciousness element. There is no ignorance and no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, no origination, sensation, and harm. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, because there is no attainment, bodies outwards rely on and dwell in perfection wisdom. The mind without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All in order to dwell the 3 times, also manifesting completely awakened, as a part of all perfect, complete enlightenment, and relies on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, mantra, the mantra that pulls unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth and is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata Gate Gade Paragadi Parasangadi Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasatva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the one by one arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya of Jivara, saying, well said, nothing. It is like that, it is like that. The practice of profound perfection of wisdom, just as you indicated, even the Advils rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, Lelu Sharavan Richa, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya of Vichamara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, demons, asuras, and devas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25,
Again, assuming the correct motivation, one will listen to this class not just to remove one's own suffering and to attain well-being for oneself, but solely to benefit all living beings who are kind to oneself, like the parents of this life, and will here reflect and meditate. Adjust your motivation.
Oh yeah, da. Gawa gom tiring anzo di. Konsa choga zambe di. Beja din deji. Nyemba da samba gom yuchungwa di. Ne kogo ya wen tonji. Gawa gom gure esirwa.
So, rejoicing today, we have the chance to hear, reflect, and meditate on this teaching composed by His Holiness. It's a good opportunity, rejoicing in Him.
Da kisi anzo tsamdawa di. Tijingi tonlam le de da. Tijingi tonlam de da. Tikjin seya de. Tekpa chenpo seya de. Ani samba jashi yungu ne chawa shaare. Lam di ngasum chunga shaare de. Nyende la ya ne. Lam nga che, tsolang chunlang tonlang kongla mila la nga che. Rangye la ya tsolang chunlang tonlang kongla mila la nga che. Tadi na shi tikjen la ya ne. Tsolang chunlang tonlang kongla mila la nga che je. Lam nga sum chunga saya di ta pajin teba ki. Tanya chi ta di re sirwa.
We left off looking at the path of seeing from the perspective of the great vehicle, and similarly to the hearer vehicle, which has these 5 paths: path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of non learning. And solitary realizers likewise have those 5 paths: path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, non learning. So do the great vehicle have those 5 as well?
다 티징게 총람종람 다 기생 간주 총람종람 통람시 통람디 먼저 다 시외디 개주무셔고래 가서나 알아서 디 시베이나 단단 간주 통람 터베야돼요 말들에 윤디디 시외 개주무래 가서나 먼저 뒤에 낭바기 군조스나 잡스터서기 군조스음지 군조니 딱 산지 군조 남샤디 디네 체용거래 네 페나 먼저 추군조던 긴두군조데 톨라미네가 스토부요래 동반이 무슨도 왜 람디 네 람디 레 추군조래 로 아니 디줄라데베 칸사데 파베 칸사데 군조 수미네네 네 긴두군조래 다 추군조다 긴두군조 남샤데 체도나 아니 먼저 산제세야데 좀 두고요래 제가 디인디 다디 시고야데 개정부 쉽지 차고 그래서
It's important to know the characteristics and qualities of the path of seeing, because whilst we might not yet have attained it, the qualities are important in the context of the 3 rare sublime ones, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The latter 2 jewels, the jewel of Dharma, is important in context of the path of seeing, in terms of it being a cessation. And then in the 3rd jewel, the jewel of Sangha, true path and the continuum of an Arya. So if one knows these qualities in relationship to the 3 rare sublime ones, one knows how to accomplish Buddhahood. Therefore, it's important.
단다디 잠도된 주에는 산제추다 긴주에 타바되는 기jap송도아 산제추 긴주에데네 먼저 타바되니 기jap레스데 말아서 다 동일에 타바 동일에 타바지 되든 요라 다 동일 메로체나 동일에 타바지 요로체나 삼바디 유니 다당한조데 그 로조식 제념인 지구요라와 그래서 먼저 있다문에디 네 어디에 산제 주근데 겹레스 다 겹이나데 간데레 라연데 계속 쉬어나시 주근조디 겹고다 근두근조디 겹되다도 산제 근조디 다 규제비 산제 근조디 겹된 바고 차고레스로
And as it says in the 70 verses of liberation, that those who are desirous of the liberated state need to go for direction or take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So in that context, we really want liberation, don't we? And if we do, well, that's the reason we practice Dharma, to get to that state. And in that context, we have to know that the actual accomplishment is cultivating the 2nd sublime jewel of Dharma, and then once that's in our continuum, becoming a Sangha. And that all comes from relying on the Buddha, the teacher.
제가다 추군조 짬고인다 레레 라연데 아니 동반이 무슨도 또연데 데모데제 마리바 도사야 말해와 마리바다 계약 고급진이 요 말해 디메두장가라 아니 차다 찍라 차고하던 찍라 다와 가도 아제 진심 도저 요 말해 다 도저 메두 아니 semba마지 와데 먼저 디 스트레스 anxiety depression 라 도저 요 말해 대매버서 마세 아니 레뇽이 껴와 레뇽이 치와 레뇽이 개와 어디게디 파괴 내가 요 말에 세상에 깜무이다디 다 디제디 셴나 아니 당서 다디 딘데지 요나다 다 고고도스와 아
Yeah, yeah.
아니 배전시야 다 가와 배전시오라 나나저 당부 가와 배전시오스나 아니 미다고 보면이 제면 동반이 보면 배전시
Mhm.
학월도 그래서 응아게 동바 슈니지는 니머를 동니를 막고나나 자동리 거를 와 돈이 공부 거래스라
So why is that second jewel of the three rare sublime ones important, the Dharma jewel? Because once one has gotten to that path of seeing or cultivated that self-grasping, let's say unawareness that grasps that self, there's nowhere to go. What didn't you understand?
Taken. Just thinking.
거네 말하시네
Helena. So that second Dharma jewel, why that's important in context of the path of seeing is because then self-grasping, or the unawareness that grasps itself, has nowhere to go, it cannot be produced. Not only that, the attachment and aversion, or desirous attachment and aversion, jealousy, competitiveness, these will become no more. So there's none of these disturbing thought obscurations to upset the mind, and then the mind cannot be depressed, anxious. But also it's the case that because one is no longer overpowered by common and disturbing emotions, birth, aging, sickness, and death and so forth won't occur in that unenlightened way. So then it's important to know the qualities or attributes of that Dharma jewel. And once you know those qualities and attributes, you will make effort to accomplish it. So how do we do that? The way we make effort to accomplish the Dharma jewel is firstly by contemplating impermanence, then voidness. And of course, if we do Tantra every day, we must reflect on the lack of intrinsic nature.
다디니 다 통람지 내가 다 통반요 뭐 야다 중이 방로고요 시립 야다 제시 통반요 뭐 야다 중이체 그래서 방로고다
Then at the uninterrupted, this is on page 81 if you're following the text at the bottom, then at the uninterrupted path of the great vehicles, path of seeing, bodhisattvas directly perceive emptiness and abandon simultaneously the 112 artificial obstructions to liberation pertaining to the three realms. Sipesungi, Jadanchuni, Angra.
야다 중이디 더 장가자이나 디 되발아야 반자 십지 탐바야레 되바 동해 된 먹고저도 먹고 봐 된바 람 된바 스테리아 된바 실로 로와슈베 로슈 주요와
Yeah.
주주주주주주 십지 다원하다 따면 같이 십주체 되발아야 반자 통반 십주체라 아니 소다 소메니라 콘도 야말 콘도 메디 십진안에 파투된데 데려와 가서 숨지서로와 숨지서로 얘기 되니로 와라
That's quoi? Dunjiduni.
되니로 와
Ale sumjisa trup lemnirwa.
숨지서로 얘기 되니로
Okay.
되니가 시주담바자 야도 중이다다 그래서마다
So how those 112 artificial obstructions to liberation pertaining to the three realms are enumerated. With regards to the desire realm, there are 40 of those abandonments. So 10 each for each of the four truths relating to each of them, and that there are these erroneous views of each of the four truths, 10 of them. So 4 times 10 makes 40. And with the latter two realms, form and formless realms, you take out the anger, affliction. So that there's 36 each of those. So 36 times 2 is 72 plus 40 is 112.
다 시디 자다 제디 아니 방바송도 주바송도 그거 시시다 도시 시 시체와지라 구와 구스미서도로와 아래 시체와지 구 구스미서도로와
Yeah, 숨지서도 딱다래.
숨지서도 섬게 아니 자주미 예로와 되발라 숨지서도 술로 숨지서도
할래.
숨지서도 아니 자다 제 아래 숨지서도 숨게
Really, tatare. Jadanje. So 108 artificial, simultaneously that path also abandons the seeds of the 108 artificial obstructions to omniscience. So these are the same in number, meaning that there are 4 times 9, so 36 to be abandoned relating to the desire realm, 36 to be abandoned relating to the form realm, and 36 to be abandoned related to the formless realm. So adding those up makes 108.
다디 대람기 반자반야디 사면다지와 라미지베 추진진의 반도여르와 다디제 남샤도도 제시제와 살람기나라 여다 지명은저 아니 이처럼 디부 다고 신이 저거도 나도 살람기 아마 찍도 차르다 저 찍도 차르스라
Right, so that path also abandons the seeds. So that has been taught on grounds and paths, but if you're interested, that can be gone over again, the mode of abandonment of these seeds.
다 델라 딘데 손도 아지랑 베제데마 다시더와 가르스나 딘데게 반자데 녀모도도 다 통람이 내가스 레뇽이 시원데 기베 껴와다 가와다 나와 동네 치와 빵레스 요마레스 최담제 대화도 시제에 띵이지기 더베 아니 툭다와 천다 다 폴링게 누고 말이와
Okay.
효정 들어 매 추 메시지 멜로디 겐 치기 겐 컨데지 태워이네 대화 코너마도 동해요 말이야 어디신 거다
So if you want to follow along with the text, second paragraph down 82, when such a path of seeing is attained, bodhisattvas abandon the sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death that are under the control of the other, meaning contaminated actions and afflictive emotions. Also, since they attain meditative stabilization called proceeding blissfully with all phenomena, no matter what dangerous conditions they encounter, poison, weapons, fire, and so forth. Pollen was mentioned. There's only bliss, no suffering whatsoever.
아니 제가 내 뒤준에 라고도 하면서 자죽 쌤다 난그 로도 첨부에 치기 젠 가르쳐야 있나 대화기고 그래서
Yes.
먼저 치기 연식 때 동에서 용도
Yeah.
이 가르친 거라서나 먼저 여기 쌤 누바디 당겨요 말아 누바디 난 누바디요나 치기엔 컨디션 태위나 그 대화 파라면 시지게
La.
동의제요 말다 된대위 연대주에나다 토고도 섬라
Yeah. And as I often mention, the uncontrived bodhicitta that's in his or her mental continuum is endowed with such courage and potency that whatever external conditions are met, they're just the conditions for bliss, even if they meet negative external conditions. But for us, when we meet negative external conditions, we suffer. And the reason for this is that our minds are not potent. So when one sees that those are the qualities of bodhicitta, one goes for it or should be inspired.
다드네 고람디베 다드네 통람네야 고람 사주다 사주 남샤데와
Yeah.
고마 사주시다 시디 반당게 시리오레 딜레야다 사주 남샤셰운데 사탕보네 제 사주 파도 남샤 데다 사탕보데라 통람다 고람 니게 사요로와
Yeah. Now, next talks about traversing the bhumis, so that, between the path of seeing and going further up through the path of meditation and the border from the first to the second. And what is happening here is the abandonment of these, subtle obscurations to omniscience.
어다데 공방유무 주도 되제 되발은 툭제 한 소소메니랑아 주 콘도파비로 콘도요모라 소소메로 콘도메빈자 아니 마차비요로 주차다 아니 주차고로라 주 주간라 되외유무 툭자변데 아니 주룩스체 공방유무 시디데 당기자다 다라레 자단제레도
Jadangjewa. Then by the means of the 10 bodhisattva grounds, ranging from that part of the first bodhisattva ground included within the path of meditation to the 10th ground, qualities having destroyed the discordant class of objects of abandonment increase, such as the gradual abandonment of the seeds of the 16 afflictions. So those 16 are 6 related to the desire realm, and laterally 5 to each of the form and formless realms, because as was mentioned with the 108, those latter 2 realms don't have the affliction of anger. And the 108 obscurations to omniscience to be abandoned by the path of meditation.
다 통바다 공방에 차벌디 카레요레스 디직시나야고 하다라
Right, so difference between abandonments on the path of seeing and the path of meditation.
다단다디 오므란 유벨루체위나 통바디 아니 반자군다 디에샤라 반자군다 스드다 둡다옹 김제옹 스웨션조게 아니 반자디게체 다 베나가란조 코데오셰위나 지 다요레스로와 다 뭐죠 이슈당 힌두당 다요레 카제 다요레식도 아니 다드네 야 체리고에서 다요 말했어요.
Silapa.
등산 체리고에는 강산스니디야 여러 사고 찾아라 켈린제 가서 시원하시지 다 등산 체리고에 따와 로고 진짜인데 빼기도 알아. 정말지야 두쟁이 거네 두쟁요로 장장미 주지 와 버진다 체리게 셰절로 야다고 레면도 와 알아서 뭐마이나 체리게 두두신jo 가시 다다 빼차셔나 뭐마이나 미시야디 체베란 시리즈네 다완드도 시고로 차바그란 시리즈 게임드네 체베란 시리즈 라진코란 체베란 시리즈 미지그 수슈운데 가서 라고 모르고 모두 왔을 파 수수 송겹치야지도 근데 채워지네 파조 채워셔야 수수 송야지들 했지 금제지 타제 대시 로고스 잡지 체베란 시리즈라데 타월로 버려도 왔다 등산 등도 체리베 미스니디 닝지란 시리즈야 줄데도 와라 지난 체리게 어디다 디데게 금제 로고직다 금제 로고용 그 세션적에 따왕에 버들 군다스거다 군다스야데 금제 베나운조 군조게 서레스르 다스니 소만에 요레서 둡다지 아니
Ommaran Gupara.
라디오 루셰위나 반저 군다 현재디 어두스 샤고로 와다
So we can look at the abandonments here. Tonglam.
통람디 반저 군다 방그라
Yeah, so we can look here at firstly the abandonments on the path of seeing from the perspective of the middle way autonomous. And they are, they posit that what's being abandoned here are these kind of artificial obscurations which come from notions of there being a self, or, a truly existent self, thinking that there is a self, for example, that type of view that would be held by, like Christians, Hindus, Islam, whatever. And even in some scientific fields, they held these views. Particularly in Darwinism, where they talked about humans evolving due to a certain set of behaviors of having to protect themselves, or the survival of the species, having to protect themselves through certain types of aggressive behaviors. So that kind of survival thing. And then these days, latterly, some scientists conclude that potential for humans is more compassionate. But anyway, such views of, these Darwin-like views, or these tenets or views that are held, these views are views to be abandoned because they're artificial.
Oda nine lenje se de dubda la shuma shukini mewa pena kasa pajugda kida tundu du zujule ya dan di lenje se de zimba lenje yonde ge ro wa shu de thome marigba se de ta tinde la junye na ze jo marigba de odi lenje shagro.
Yes, but so the aforementioned were artificial or intellectually acquired views to be abandoned, but there's also abandoning innate afflictive obscurations, which are not related to a particular view that animals also have, that are coming, these innate clingings to notion of a self, and they're coming from an unawareness, or from the 12 links, we would say is the first link of marikpa or avidya.
Oda tinde ge ta panja lenje pa ya ge ramba de la kolam tholang ge jesu yang jar Tony Musum de ta to Gunda Pan Savin, the top Naji Pani Pansha, the Harpando Gunda Pan, that and all Hengil had a chance, and Hengi Paya Chidi and Jacom Jab. Not in Leg in Badalayane, Sachu Satan Murabdikawa, you are Timame was Subavichi or Shiva to our jungle. To go on the Jova, the Marines of Java Mioa, who were leg well to Jova Chuji teens, or the Sachu Namshadi.
Right. So having first abandoned these artificial clingings to the notion of a self, one then moves on to abandon the more innate afflictive obscurations. And then one goes through, going from the path of seeing to the path of meditation, traversing the grounds. So the first one is the very joyful, second one stainless, page 82, third luminous, fourth radiant, fifth difficult to overcome, sixth manifest, seventh gone afar, eight immovable, 9 good intelligence, and 10 clouds of doctrine.
Yeah.
Back to these 16 afflictions, the seeds on the path of meditation. It says the gradual abandonment of the seeds of the 16 afflictions. Okay, so that's on the path of meditation. We abandon the seeds of the 16 afflictions to be abandoned on the path of meditation. But they would be different than the seeds to the artificial obstructions that are abandoned on the path of seeing. So I'm wondering, what are those?
So Gompangi Sapundang, Tonglamgi Sapun la Kepa Yoraba,
Yuri.
Penadinang la Gompangi Sapun Chuchuk, Pipangoraba did. Yeah.
Oh, they did it, and that Gualam you do a Satan Moon and Saju Pani. Gomba Yumo Juruk dance Lara.
Yeah.
The Gomba Yumo Juruk said the Karsana. The Shitty Jada Jail of the Gomba Yumo Juruk Sude. Nundib Laura, Nundib, Tivala Nundib and Shittim Niwa.
Yeah.
Oh, the Nundib. Nundib de la Kunda than Niche. Tanda Gualam you do a Satan Moon and Saju Pani Gomba Yumo Juruk said. Any Nundib is Nundib.
She did Maris.
She did well, she did come back at Jedwa.
Yeah. So those.
The repeat question.
Yeah. So the question was with regards to this third paragraph on page 82, where it says on the path of meditation, there are a discordant class of objects to be abandoned. such as the gradual abandonment of the seeds of the 16 afflictions. So those 16, the question was that different with regards to the path of seeing vis-a-vis the path of meditation? And the answer was, when we look at these 16 to be abandoned on the path of meditation, grounds 1 to 10, from the twofold division of gross and subtle obscurations, here we're not talking about the subtle obscurations to omniscience, but the gross level of abandonments of the seeds. So that gross level of obscurations.
다 딘데기 뉴립데 chansin 사담보
So we're talking about the first Bhumi Bodhisattva. Yeah.
딘데 뉴립데 chansin 사담보 de 사두메네갑도 냠보텐제 사제베네가로 빵도고라
Right.
뉴립 빵도고라 사제바데 뉴립 빵 사제와 구와 주와 숨들라 타고서 좀 마다 사둔 스르와 마다 사둔라고 해서 뉴리지 마타고 근데 타고서 좀 세야지 사제와 구와 주와라 타고라고 해야 뉴리드네 빵버레 스르와
Right. So what the Bodhisattva is doing then from the first Bhumi to the seventh is cultivating the ability to abandon the gross level of obscurations, and does that when they reach the eighth Bhumi. So then in the 8th, 9th, and 10th, then the subtle obscurations to omniscience are abandoned. So that's why they're called the pure. Yeah, that's why those are called the pure. The 8th, 9th, and 10th are called the pure, and that's what has already been abandoned are the grosser level of these obscurations.
What question?
Well, it was mentioned, I just clarifying back to the 16 afflictions to be abandoned, seeds on the afflictions to be abandoned in part of meditation. There was a mention of desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, but presumably one is beyond that on the path of seeing. Well, because you're beyond desire, form, and formless. So I'm just curious why those were mentioned.
The question now is with regards to the mentioning of desire, form, and formless realms relating to the breakdown of the 16 seeds. So Gisla Yang Gompong Tutuk Sapandi Dira Dekamla Tuk Sukang Sumekam Nikala Ngayo Wadi Tutuk. The Karicheni Yori Karisana Gomnam Yu de Kapla di Pangsare.
Kades.
Gom.
Kadiparis.
How can they be abandoned? How could they have been abandoned?
Kadipan.
This is asking you.
Because on desire around form and formless,
Right.
you're on the path of seeing, you're beyond samsara. On the path of meditation, you're even beyond that. So why are we talking about desire, form, and formless on the path of meditation?
Gompang. Gomlam la Karichene Dokam Sugmekam Kola Katishe.
Gura. Gombalarwa.
Yeah.
Gombandi Gasana come some sagulami, come some lamigbe. Nyomo Joyarwa, there were. Nyomo Jesadi come some lamini Jayarwa.
Yeah.
What this Gorwa?
Yeah, it is still, on the path of meditation, the 3 realms are still a focus because the afflictions are accrued with regards to the 3.
Nyomo the Marijana Danda Sumi the
Mare Kurandira Gomlam Yudu Dene Tutuk Rwadi. Karichene di Kecha Legiore, di Keje de Leore, Karisana Morangla Unichane, di Pangsare Madu. No, we're talking about what is still to be abandoned on the path of meditation. The intellectually acquired obscurations have been abandoned, but at this stage, not yet the innate ones. They still remain. That's why it still refers to those 3 realms. Yeah, the innate obscurations are abandoned on this path of meditation. Mhm.
야, 다디체, 다딘다 디 니나네 가서 마다 사든 타고 사숨디 신송아. 다디 도저 신나야고. 마다
Yeah,
사든 가르스나 사탐본에 사든 버서 마다체. 타고 사숨디 가르스나 사겨고가 주었어. 원어들라 마타다 타고 라고 했는데 가르스나 마타세데 뉴디 마바인자 뉴디 마타고스. 타고 라고 하는 사겨원에 뉴디 바인자 타고스. 다디 어떠다 도저 신나 되고.
right. So then impure and pure grounds, the impure being labeled the first to the 7 bhumis, and then the pure, the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Why is that twofold division given? Because from the 1st to the 7th one is still abandoning these
다
innate afflictive in the 8th, 9th, and 10th, they are abandoned, but one still has to abandon obscurations to knowledge.
어제 다사 주부수수 내가서 깨워만 산제 저타 본다 투마 학과를 학생 자체며 거네 다사 주에 내가서 네 산제 저타 본다 망볼라야 아니 제 연구 셔도 지야다
No.
최년야라서 거다 근데 요래서 와서 주와 사탕분 내가서네 요 사탕분에래 사탕분 연대에서 하려면 당 되면 쉬우쉬우 시에미 가서는 전화도 사탕부터서는 강해요 말이 럽종 지야다 신야다 저들라 도저시에니 당하나서 단다 카조 칸에 장고래서는 sembasamboji gejerwa chawne chi milaya susuti ye milaya chi chambada tsawa komya da deju choshi chiya da ngaje ma chiya da ani susu sembadi teze sanra da ya bezin chiya di gazu keji ju dine go zu resro
Right. Now, on the individual 10 grounds, the bodhisattva's qualities are inconceivable, special features of which they get to worship and serve hundreds of thousands of billions of Buddhas. You know, even the first Bumi's qualities are beyond our understanding, completely beyond, and we have to like study these and know the attributes. But at our level now, what's important is that we cultivate a kind heart, and particularly those that we live close to. It's good that we develop a kindness for them, a concern for them, that we try and have less wants, that we're content, that we try and reduce our pride. At our level, that's more important.
de duwe ngo shi keje more duwe ngo shi semje taewa minba chewa so yongjo ta go chewa so duwe ngo shi de kare nyemba ma jimba tong wa chewa 당부 jimba tang go wa
Yeah,
nyemba ma tsing nyemba ma wa
yeah,
계좌 먼저 계정부 시월에도 어디 밀리아 계좌 야구 시에디 계정부 해도 계좌 수수 셈바 상고여서나 계좌병 알고 칸도 지야 되는데 시에디 파려 남성 투두고다로
yeah,
네 계정부 시월에도 학과데 누조라 미디서 계좌 냠볼라 가버려도 누조 밀라 계좌 냠 마셔나 남성 도마우샤 투두고도 아니 제가 냠바마 와서야 돼 미스위나 계좌 잠보시니 키도저이나 계좌 잠보라우시에 제도 그 주고요거다
yeah.
책 두자질라도 꼭 배우러더라 두두게 하고다 돼 세상에서 짐바다야 돼 아니 냠바마 töntümba tönjö serba düwengo shidi ta desu jango ore nganze jaya duzureda
Okay. So serving the Buddhas, hearing their doctrine, rightening limitless sentient beings through the 4 means of gathering students. These 4 are important, giving material things. Secondly, speaking pleasantly about how to proceed to high status, indefinite goodness, liberation and omniscience. These 4 are very important. Of course, giving things, but secondly, this one of speaking nicely is very important. And we should do that. Particularly Westerners, they like to hear sweet speech. And if they don't, they get a black face. Yeah. Even dogs can recognize. So, you know, one should speak kindly. Even dogs can recognize kind words.
나디 아니 년바마와 töntum바스로와 töntum바스 최단 tumbe 게지시
Yeah.
아니 전주와서도 아니 수수님도 냠례시제 당아에 되게 곰들의 개그에 로정들의 지기에 진짜 두대 편도도 쓰러와 어두서 셰고 수수 편도에 편도 마요스라고 그러와
Yeah.
편도도는 편도도 쓰 라고 거여와 아니 네 람나 수수 편도든데 가 네 도이 곰들의 자위 람림들의 로정 제대 편도도
Mm.
아니 수수 편도요와데야 수수 예 밀레 편도 도스지 셰고래 데 인카르치 소고래데 지야라다 페조래야
Long.
팅위치야라 편도 용고로
And thirdly, causing others to practice what is helpful. This is very important. If one can encourage and share with others, of course, one has to think it's going to be beneficial for other, that you're doing such and such classes, such and such a study.
어디치 드웨모시 심지 타이와 멤버시 와서 제가 드웨모시 심지 편도 고라스다 그래서 다 짐바다야들 산세지 뭐 초이 짐바스네 지 게무게야도 저와 게무게야도 저 짐바 차고 오르와 아니 계제시 초기 짐바디래 초기 짐바디 짐베나니 짐바 초도 교래 산세기 짐바 아니 참배 짐바스 제 짐바도다 어두도 짐바도서 계정부 차고 오라
So trying to benefit sentient beings in limitless ways, the giving of material things is important, but also, the giving of Dharma, and even just, making others happy or making them laugh. This can also be generosity.
어딘데게 네 드웨고 심지 타입이 뭐 제네스르바 사소소스데 사토무니바 숨바 사소소 용종스 아니 사데 용종 사데다 유엔덴 할레오로 누가 쉬죠로 베데 직주바데 할레오데 주바요 주주가 메프리아로 추어 가져 니나 잡아지야면 요로거든데 다데 할라면 유엔덴 쉬죠 다데 예 삼주가 유래 가지고 생기 유래 대바든데다 루율의 대백이 내는데 요래스로
Gradually progressing over the 10 grounds, bodhisattvas finally sever the continuum of subtle obscurations to omniscience through the uninterrupted path. Going through these bhumis, the qualities of the bodhisattvas are vast, such as they can emanate bodies, they can perform miraculous feats, they have the samadhis of non-forgetfulness.
어딘데 대신 사주와 아니 트레디 타라 사주의 죽도도 아니 바제멜라 군대 바제멜라 다 윤지 타마스 심제지 셰베 윤기 타마레 준다세거든
Yeah.
심제지 다 셰바 타마들이 윤디네 심제지 셰베 윤체레 근데 시디 타면군이체 감송게 시디 타면군이체도 되네 대방배 시디 타면방바 방바타와다 아니 연대 타입을 터베 내가 산재이 공부터가데 되냐 버레스로
Then, progressing over the 10 grounds, bodhisattvas finally sever the subtle obscurations to omniscience through the uninterrupted path at the end of the continuum of a being. So that's the last moment that one is a sentient being, in that one has finally uprooted the subtle obscurations to omniscience related to the 3 realms, and simultaneous with that removal, Buddhahood is attained with its limitless qualities.
오예 다든데 산재 꾸들라 수구당 주구 스니체와 아니 수구들라 롱구 주구 초 주구스 주구숨 아니 롱구세야데 다 이류 바식라고 해버려 그래서 롱구세야데 이류스나다 수구 임바 칸실라 단다 데요와 장지 방법 이제 생성고 숨유자니다 배제성 뭐 자주견도요 나도 데 지준 드라마다 누구 남제래도 내가 더더와 내도 누구 남제래 다디네 초주고세데 다자도 뭐 샤제도 바게 제와 중니 제제마
Yeah.
샘제지 된데야들 초주고서 와라 주고 소부 주고세데 마 주바 된제와 주바 된데 지 강바다 신다 아니 네 리다다 네 리다 메들 주바 된제 주주 된제 주주고 된제 아니 네 뒤제 된지니지 요거요래 어디게라 되지나 아니 주고 소부 주고 세라 어디 샤고요라
Okay, and then we have the emanations when we look at it from the perspective of the form bodies being emanated. So there are, different levels of it. There's like emanation bodies which take place for those bodhisattvas training, and of those emanation bodies have the qualities of like these 37 limbs and so forth, the 37 wings of enlightenment. And then there's a supreme emanation body, which is such as Shakyamuni Buddha emanating a body that performs the 12 deeds. And then there are these other types of emanations. Sometimes they're called artisan. Anyway, these ones are like houses, mountains, other miraculous apparitions, according to the sentient being's needs.
다디네 최고세야데 아니 산제 주게 이시 주고세야데 셰바 남지 셰바 탐제데 아니 이시 주고세야데
Right, so we have then we've just talked about the form body of a Buddha, but then the wisdom truth body, Yeshichuku. This is Buddha's omniscient wisdom mind.
다디네 모니고세야제 모니고데네 산제 주게 녀르 이 녀모의 시제 두어 방배 방바이 미네베장데다 꼭데 어딜래 딱바지로 딱베고들로 모니고스
Right, and then we talk about the no Nico or nature body, which is the state of having abandoned all adventitious defilements. It's the true cessation, or we would say, result of absence.
다 모니고다 추구데 산제 나핀주 코네 메시지게 샘진지 주유도 유튜브야 말에 하고 두고야 말에 시도고야 말에 봐.
Now, these two qualities, the nature body and the wisdom truth body, no Niku and Yeshichuku, they can only be perceived mutually by Buddhas. Other beings cannot perceive that level.
다들 롱굴라데 전시 바보 코네 메시지게 전시 바보 많이 이게 제투가 말에 전시 바보게 롱구 제제 롱구즈네 추니 거다 봐.
The utility or enjoyment body, the Longku form body, can be seen by the Arya Bodhisattvas, wherein they take teachings from it.
세상을 알아서 제르모친 지진 잠배 시에스 송주에 년바다. 아니 뭐마다 롱더러 모치면서 지진 좀 시에스고요. 지진 좀마즈네 송능고요. 벽을 라마마 베데다 지진 좀마다 지진 잠배다 제레스다. 장로도지다 근데 시에스베 루주 시우저를 와.
Yeah.
그래서 제가 도수 상마 사탕부터 배 따라도 와. 그런도 사탕부터도 왜 따라 와. 사탕부터 왜 그전에 송주에라고 와.
And validated by Lama Tsongkhapa directly being able to see Manjushri. Langrong Doji Chunwai. Hara no Satonyan di Sudam. Jitin Droma no Satonyan di Sudam.
Vale, long lama 다 별 lama 망고요.
Yeah, so anyway, many lamas in Tibet being able to directly see Tara and also Vajrapani. So these are signs that these practitioners would be on the first bhumi.
다디네 초 두고 써야 돼. 다 양생스 피게요 말해. 그런 다다 다자 좀 샤제도 와데 초 두고 잠불린들. 아니 다자 좀 샤제도 돼. 자와 중이 단위 진행될 초 두고 소와.
Claro. We mentioned the supreme emanation body, and they don't appear all the time. That Shakyamuni Buddha came to this world and showed the 12 deeds.
다디네 두고라 껴 두고 써야지. 다디 신나야 뭐라 그러서. 껴 두고라 돼. 아니 껴 두고 쓰라면도 미 베나 미 기숙단 튜바 기숙단 튜바 미나시 가라즈 나시 게 베나 먼저 겨울 머신 더 이제 겨워 두고 더래 와 제일 머신이 겨워 두고 다 그래서 미 기숙단 튜바 아니 미나시 계제로 타메베 나시 마게
No.
되면에들라 산제 임바체 텔레야 겨워 두고라고 디지션에 야고 저러서
Yeah.
아니 두고 써야 돼. 배배 두고 라야 돼요. 오늘 다다든 대신에 다용으로.
Now, we're on page 91 now. So it's talking about emanation bodies. So we've talked about supreme emanation body of Shakyamuni Buddha, but there's also like a birth emanation body such that the emanation is like a person, such like His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Lama Tsongkhapa, already enlightened, but appearing in a form we can see. And this is good to know for us because we hear this word tuku in the Tibetan a lot. It's good to know actually what it means in definition.
지사 두고 오네이나 아니 되나 산제리 되어다 그러봐.
Yeah, really, if we understand this word tuku, we're talking about already enlightened.
다 등산 배배게나 보고 친주만 보시다. 도서 가라서는 도서 양시. 양자 겨왕하면 양시 문제 처럼 두고 이메 두고 겨 두고 이메 내가 저 하고 오면 다 더버가는 시.
So in Tibetan society these days, a lot of young beings will be called tukus, but really it's more accurate to say they're incarnations in the sense that they've been recognized as the incarnation of someone rather than call them a tuku.
다 되는 거네 산제이나 넘버 메다지 메다지 자주자이 우러러.
Yeah, what's really the case is that once one is enlightened, the emanations are 100% are various.
어다 데저릭도 지 셴베이나 아니 되게 지 양세레스디 람산디 두그레라 칙디 두그레 다르무친라 칙도 라 레라메 여머다 와 칙. 그거 삼그래 팅사 가지고 라비온 것도 지직두 람무친네 람무친.
Yeah, so it's good to know then the difference between incarnation and tuku, because to be given the name or the title tuku or Rinpoche, that's kind of quite heavy. But to go around saying, you know, all the incarnations are those, yeah, well.
어디 산지에 남샤제 다 파진 태국의 남지는 바도 뒤러지 도시 말다 제వ 셴나 쉐ව제 여러 그냥 셴이 셰사요 말라.
Right. So, you know, from the perspective of the perfection vehicle, we can look at those resultant bodies of a Buddha. We could go into it very much more, so much to say.
다 대제디 파진 태국의 남샤디 야고 좀 마시나나 나라 계지 시다시에요 말. 저는 뭐지 나 뭐도 지금 다시 민도 텐데게 이래. 파진 태국의 단다 배는 겨두고 농구 뒤에 마시는 지면 나라메 디 두고 남제리 디 농구 남제리서 가리라고 그래. 고추고 뭐라.
And it's important to be well versed and grounded in the perfection vehicle. And you might be wondering why not much has been said yet about Tantra. Well, because one has to know from the perfection vehicle standpoint what these bodies mean and what are their characteristics and boundaries. Emanation bodies, birth emanation bodies, supreme emanation.
당연히 대지신에야 뭐래. 배나 남바 산제바 이마 인세디 kunjo sumla just to be jamdo yumere wa
Yeah.
kananzo 마 낭바이 낭바미 인사야데 수수라야데 수수줄라 군조순라 겹스트웨 cam로지 여다 메다에 cam로 도나니 계란 낭바레 cam로 메도나니 지 낭바 인랍자라제 되는 낭바레요 마레스라.
So, firstly, then, what makes one a Buddhist is whether or not one has refuge or has gone for refuge in the three rare sublime ones and has that in one's mental continuum.
다드네 태과 첨부 이 뭐였어야데 아니 지 자주 생기냐네 여마예지래 다 닝지 첨부 줄레지는데 태과 첨부 릭세래 다 태과 첨부 이마세데 자주게 셈게다 데 지금 되게다 아주 우주 잡제 배 가와이네 배 굴론 제기도 와
Yeah.
다데 우주 시작거다
Now,
데다 태과 첨부 태주마세 자주 생기냐네 여메나 라레게
I
요레스와
don't know. What then makes a practitioner a great vehicle practitioner or not is dependent on whether one is cultivating or having cultivated bodhicitta. So when you have produced great compassion or given, generated great compassion, then you are in that lineage of the Mahayanists. But
다드네
really, sorry, Krishna, really it comes down to that, are you going for bodhicitta or not?
다 노알라 슉 마슉세야데 와레 와 원 톱나 나가 주베 고 원레스 원 톱마톱 세야데 원지 톱나 아니 나가 주고 나가 주고 원 톱마도 원 샤우레스테
And whether one has entered into the mantric or tantric vehicle or not depends on whether one has had empowerment or been empowered to do so or not.
다나 왕라데 카레르와 왕라데 카레스 라비나 와
What then is an empowerment?
왕세야데 아니 사데다 되게 아니 지 베나다 모올이야 라니 타메가 나와도 바까지와
Yeah.
아니 라니 하데다 데 모올라 계약에 아니 실람 데뷔 남샤데 제게 왕스나리 촉진스나리 뒤에 차상 톱된 거지 와 뒤에 차상 톱아치 보고요 레스
Okay. So what is an empowerment? It is to first stop the ordinary appearance and clinging to it of oneself being ordinary and clinging to that appearance of being ordinary, and as a result, giving birth or production of the resultant state of a deity and everything that entails.
다음은 원 톱마도 써야 돼. 니 간대질로 샤고래. 다음은 원세 디나 베나 말아서 데레로질 차샤. 다지메 무슨 지든 드메 원나 그러와.
Yeah.
지든 드메 원 써야 돼. 지든 드메기 다. 뭐 딩냠린 쳐야 돼. 라다제. 수수라 초진 때우러지와. 데레질로 원체. 아니 만줄라 다음은 말라. 원 톱마도 써야 돼. 가르라 오래 라비인데.
Okay, so then this notion of empowerment, how does one know if one's got it or not? Soon the Tara empowerment will be given, and then one will have the, let's say, permission or to practice or, yeah.
예,
practice.
즉 품바 골라샤는 원 톱디스 되게 좀 맞다.
Yeah, we're not talking about just having a vase on one's head. That
Right,
doesn't
then-
mean you're empowered.
이네마 원 챤이 라마 되게. 아니 왕마 라트네르 와 하제당 오든데든데 아니 하고메야 된데든데 람지르 베남샤 된데든데 아니 베나 다 라메도에 나 기름도 다 된데 구숨 람지 된데 겨두고 된데 바둘롱고 꼼다 된데 말 지왕 다 포만 상세 왕 된데 왕기 마 라데도
Yeah,
마 송주 난거도
yeah,
나는데 아니 수수문에 다 디레샤세 다디 트심나다 딜레라고 사실 초월을 연구하래 초월하는 거 초월 멤버체 과지테는 디레샤 다디 딜라고도 왕다 트스로 왕의 트레스는 왕토버래. 왕의 마트는 왕토야 말이야. 왕의 다트버로 마. 이내 마 남의 순전교 거거다 근데.
Oh, so getting, what does it mean then to receive the empowerment? It is when the Lama introduces the characteristics of the deity to you in terms of the generating of the deity and the meditation on the deity and the steps and resultant path that goes with that deity practice, such as generation stage of that practice, the taking of the three bodies into the path, and commensurate with that, the steps of each empowerment, like vase, secret wisdom and word. And then, the Lama is giving that. And whilst the Lama is giving that, you're hearing the words and you're understanding them. And to hear those steps and words and understand them means that you've received the empowerment. If you don't hear, you don't understand, you've not received it.
다들 왕 세들 베나 풍왕 사왕 시왕 치왕 세당 왕 시디 맞도 류지 caption으로
Yeah.
네 뭐라
So let's look essentially then at those stages of empowerment. Bumwang, onda.
풍왕 시왕 풍왕
Ishi,
사왕
someone.
시왕 싫어요 시왕으로
Okay.
치왕
So we've got vase, wisdom, secret, and word, I think.
풍왕 사왕
Yeah.
시왕
As you do.
다 분배왕 라비인데 배나 다 겉도 들어 시샤위는 다마 제부 시야 그래 더 들어 시샤위나 다 분배서야 돼 먼저 주면서 돼 막 오직 시고 다 저디 류지도 다제와 먼저 류지도 다제 아니 람 다디나 가서 람이나 람 기름도 왕어시로 람 기름도야 그 톱단 마대고 왕어시 제부 뚜부뚜베 니버샤드 아니 제부
Tuku.
두고 따고 구시나네 두고와
Yeah.
오 두고두베 니버 샤소 좀 제산다 파진데베 남지 남샤 마시나는 왕다라 트요고라요 말
No, Lolasu. So now, essentially, let's look at the first of these four, the vase initiation, vase empowerment, which essentially, can be like with water as a substance, but anyway, essentially it purifies non-virtues or misdeeds of body. And in terms of the path, it's related to the generation stage of the path. And what it results in on a maturational level is a tuku, or form body. We already talked about the four bodies, and that's why it's important to know from the vantage point of the perfection vehicle. This is the form body.
다 제일랑서 기름 조rin 드셔도 뒤지 제일만 잡셔오라
Yeah. So later we should go through generation and completion stage in an essential way.
다드네 와니와 상와르와 상와르와 와 상와디 아니 나그드바 다지셔와 류가 이숨네 나그드바 다지셔와 그 상와와도 안데네 람 조림 좀 몰라 조림 공부라 와와셔와 데비 룽구 털지가 누가 샤서 temporada kushina
And our second empowerment is secret, which from the three doors of body, speech, and mind relates to the speech door or speech vehicle. And then what is happening here is more with regards to completion stage practice, and it plants the seed to actualize the utility or enjoyment body of a Buddha. So this is the secret empowerment.
다드네 와서 뭐 시원으로 싫어요시원 데 가르스는 이기디와 다지 먼저 이 류가 이선의 이기디와 다지 셔와 라마 아니 외세 공부는 건데 셔서 외세 아니 데우 추구주변에 와셔서 선제 추구도와
Yeah.
음,
And then third empowerment is the wisdom empowerment, and this from the three of body, speech, and mind deals with mind or mental purification, the path of which is the meditation on clear light, and the resultant is the choku, or the wisdom, omniscient wisdom.
대대 원시와 지원스 지원스 지원되게 르와 예수 지자도 되게 디바타제 체로와 르와 예수고 보내 가지고 디바문의 사신여로와
Yeah.
이 다제 체 아니 데브 숭 아니 람 아니 외세 공부하고 데브 숭주 그러와 데브 숭주 구다 산제 있고 숭주 구 탑서 숭주 구 강가라 미세 숭주 구사제 파지 대관라데 다니데요 말에 숭주 있고 자와도지 참 있고 저거라 숭주 참 있고 숭주 있고 아니 탑서 냐메 뭐와체 오레스
Fourth empowerment is the word empowerment, and this purifies the threefold non-virtues we've done with body, speech, and mind. And again, the path is clear light as the medium to meditate on. The Drebodi Sungku. The result is the union of the two bodies of a Buddha, and this is important because it's unique to Tantra, in that there is this unification of the form and mental bodies. For example, this is personified by Vadadara Dojichang.
다 어디 지난 단단한 라메게 원시게 남샤데레와 아니 주도 오마도절로 원시게 남샤데 차장요 말에 제나세로 미시
Yeah, and this relates to the highest or higher yoga tantras where there are four empowerments. The other tantras more relate to the Jainangs or just permission to practice. They don't have all these four.
어다디 왕게 뭐지 왕 톱주시 다 왕 톱단디 가서 인지미지신 왕다라 쳐고래 데라 시우시우 심데 쳐 말에 개지슈데 암저야 보니 아니 고다 롭죠 데즈 마셔는 고고 말와
Yeah.
네 최그 인지신 받는지 최직데 먼저 배외계 신배는 취직 고고 말해 봐 제가 취직대 민세 롭존치 장고래 취직대 나도 전에 나 그런 나다도 최고다 진짜 그 렐로민도 안 들어와
Yeah.
근데 롭존치 고래 롭존 데스 마체나나 뭐 말다 말아서 단다 디네망에 디셰도도 메팅 서브 쉬우지 자요 뭐 와마도 니마 운인데게 요라디나 아니 제시제시라고지 다 고된 차로지 데스다 둔도 제만에 마디네 도에레스와
Right. So it's important then to know what it entails to receive an empowerment. Of course, we can talk about it, but it's also important that study is put in a bit to knowing what, what they mean, because certainly in the Tibetan language, there are lots of Dharma words related to this level, this level of empowerment. It's not easy. It is easy to mix them up or to mistake them. And I can't really go too deeply into it here because there are those listening who haven't yet received empowerment. But what we can do next week is just get like a general idea of it.
Oh yeah, that is sure.
We'll stop for today. Yep.
On the path of meditation, we do not accumulate karma. Do we still experience it?
Okay, thank you. So on the path of meditation, we do not accumulate karma. Do we still experience it? Isla 통감 검람 예비들어야들이 검양 라 이사드 속에 요마래 말아 그냥 녀마 미게오당 누적던 저 영그르베 녀마 미게오 녀마 레
chansin 바발라 영 말에 chansin 바발라 동해 녀요 동해거나요 말에 다 녀고요 말에 년도라 녀아요 레스 년도라 샤라 디 년도라 녀아 직직 샤라 년도라 요르메 chansin 권라로 요 말에 년도 권라로 요 레스와
So the Arya bodhisattvas on the path of meditation don't experience any suffering as a result of karma, but the the yeah, the hearers on the path of meditation, they do, they can. You do carolings.
Reincarnation. Oh dear, Michelle Gunshiva on what you were told to me, said you're that one on the shire.
Youngir love the patient.
Michelle Gunshiva on what you were told to me, said you're going to
Come on, Youngir.
what did it?
Korean.
Taran read and then Michelle Gunshiva on what you were told to me, you do go on.
Yeah.
What did you did think that watch agree?
Yeah, Kale Kalilana.
Mishiva, Gunshiva on what you were told to me, that you think she are wrong.
Misheba is enough. Not no.
Mishiva Gunshiva on what you was, Mishiva Gunshiva on what you was. Orange, the told to me, you are Gualam in this years.
Yeah, so there are these experiences of suffering that hearers on the path of meditation can experience. Yeah, just okay to leave it at that. Yeah, they can. There was a long explanation. I couldn't catch it. It was too far.
These
are words that are not easy. Yeah, so talking about different levels of faculty or sense that they have to experience. Yeah, but for the Arya Bodhisattvas, there's no suffering. 100% no suffering at all. Don't have to doubt.
The 이치야 가고라는 거는 망고지게 수수료를 따지 피조 과제거든. 근데 야마라 사제별로 관리사르지.
It's difficult for us because we're always going to relate something just by our experience. So it's difficult for us to
understand.
Yeah, but because at that level you're way different.
Going beyond it, going beyond.
Like your nose, Gishla.
Oh yeah, that is
sorry. Oh, I just that was a joke. I didn't.
That's good.
Oh, we did it again now.
Due to the miracle of the great Lord's actions, my quickly attained the state of Lord's, and made all living beings without exception unto that in my state. Made it supreme to all one cheater and the Father was in the rise of the world, and made that eternal wisdom not diminished, but increase more and more. Whatever slight of the potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering, acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and predicting the Buddhist say and teach, I now dedicate all this to the Lord awakening. I dedicate all these words to virtue with the dedication praise of the best. That I rejoice once I've scorned for 3 times, that I might perform the little bodies of the thief. Meaning in garments on Calvin's way of Dharma practice and varnish. May the absence of obstacles be sanctified, and all the duties to certain the way that with the great Lord, although there is a single benefit of happiness in this world, that an incomparably kind deeds of counsel I beseech. My only wishes to be spontaneously fulfilled. Savior of the Sunday teaching and trains my great beings. He makes extremely clear the path to the unification of emptiness and compassion. To the lotus order that leads in death to rise his feet. My own holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You are called to do the tomorrow way, to perish the life of their old. The day preserve and really limited in the victorious gospel. When lastly accomplished in the notion of prayers honoring the three illnesses. They of myself and others give us abundance, please, to the return. There are among the accumulations of myself and others of the three times. May the teachings of the conqueror, those seven drugs, bless and long time. Number 6, so return prayer. Heroes, teachers, singing the children, various ones from the adventures of the woods. Victoria's Lord and Father, example of long moving masters. All the objects of refuge in infinite lands, poison, snowy, virtue, and goodness, and accomplishing this prayer you and now. Holding and spreading and working for the training and genius. Through explanation and practice, see all the animal patience that is never discouraged. And comprising the little glory of you, I make the voice. While striving so effectively for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, God gave way to which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for all other living beings, he suddenly defined peace or going loss. Nevertheless, bringing the undeceiving truth that the message of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of 42 children of victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly be in glory for fortune of his life.
Good night.
Thank you.